Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rocker Dog Podcast, the show that talks to musicians about their fur babies. I'm your host, Tim Dill, speaking to you under the watchful gaze of my golden doodle, Charlie, and today we welcome singer-songwriter Jessica Lea Mayfield, who burst onto the scene 15 years ago while still a teenager and is still writing, recording, and touring today. And this is her 90-pound, lap-loving rocker dog.
My dog is Yoshi. Should I point the camera at him?
Sure.
Yoshi.
There he is.
Hi, baby. He's a Great Dane Pit Bull mix. He's 6 years old.
Okay.
And he's been with us since he was 3. We adopted him as a 3-year-old.
Okay. And a big boy. Is he about 86 pounds, I think it was mentioned on social media once?
Yeah, last time we got him weighed, he broke 90, and the vet said he was a little overweight, and we got him. I've been putting some green beans in with his food to kind of cut back. He just loves to eat. That's all. He's like a vacuum. He's always looking for something to eat. Always. It's all he thinks about. So
very funny. And very interesting mix. Great Dane and Pit Bull, you said?
Yeah, they call them Bull Danes. Okay.
It's funny, I was just volunteering at our local shelter yesterday, and there was a Pit Bull Yorkie mix. So it looked odd. It had the Yorkie body exactly in just a Pit Bull head. You know, and the Yorkie, you kind of want to have that kind of almost fox-like face, but it had a different head. It was very bizarre mix.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. He's interesting because you can tell like his tail is too big for his body, and he's got these really long arms in the front and short legs in the back, and he's just, you know, it's funny how you can just see that he didn't get the mix in the best of ways.
Yeah, he didn't get the best balance of it all. Yeah, we have a friend with a Great Dane, and just such a big dog, such a lovable dog, and just, you know, he wants to be that 90-pound lap dog, I assume.
Yoshi, he has to be on top of you at all times. Like, it's like right now he's at my feet. If I sat on the ground, he would be like this. And I have a friend who says, like, you might as well be breastfeeding him, because whenever she comes over, he's just like draped over me like a baby. He thinks he's like this big. He really does. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how all the big dogs think they're small little lap dogs, and all the small little lap dogs think they're the ruler of the dog park.
We thought about getting like a little Chihuahua or something to like teach him how to be a big guard dog, you know, because he won't even, like, if he hears a noise that scares him, he'll get behind. He's like, Mommy, I'm scared. What is it? Can you go see what that is? Right.
Now on his Instagram page, I say on he's got his own page. I think one of the first posts you mentioned kind of that you guys, where did you find him? You know, you mentioned that he was underweight. I guess he had pink eye. And he was kind of an outdoor dog.
Yeah, we adopted him from our local animal control, and they had actually given his previous owners, I wouldn't call them parents because they didn't, you know, give him the attention he needed, but they had given them a citation and told them that they weren't allowed to own any more dogs, because when they surrendered him, he was in such bad condition, and he was super underweight. You could see all his ribs. He had pink eye in both eyes, and then he was a full-time outdoor dog in the desert where it gets to be like 120 degrees out here. So like, it wasn't, and they told him when they surrendered him, they said, oh, he doesn't like to eat. Yeah. That's all this man wants to do is this little man, all he wants to do is eat. And he's so grateful when you give him water, it's the cutest thing, because you'll go to put the water bowl down and he'll start licking his lips. He's like, oh boy, I get some water. It's just like, dude, it's just water. Like,
that's funny. My dog, I've got a doodle. He's not big on eating. He's someone you want to, like, you know, if he has 2 meals a day, that's a big day for him. But I could see if you're a 90-pound, Bull Dane, where that dynamic changes.
Yeah. And, you know, it's all he's always asking for more. And because he was so underweight, it's really hard for my husband and I to say no to him, because and he's got that resting sad face.
Right.
Too. So it's just that he gets that Great Dane part of him where they all just look like pitiful, and they're so sweet, and you just want to do everything and anything they want you to, you know. So I if it were up to me, he'd be, 300 pounds, but I have to, because I love him, I give him, the right amount.
Well, speaking of the woe is me face and the sympathetic face, he's not all that innocent, I'm gathering. Recently, you had a post about doggy daycare, and sometimes you're a little reticent to ask, how was he today?
Yeah, so get this. He has turned it around because for February, he got Pup of the Month at his daycare. So
Fantastic.
he has turned it around. He was a little humpy, a little bit, but he broke some of those habits, and we worked hard on that because I really wanted him to be an honor roll student at his daycare. So I'm really proud of him. He's really pulled it together.
He reminds me, my sister has a pit mix who's about 70 pounds, and same thing. He goes to daycare and doesn't always get the best grades, but what's funny, he comes back exhausted. Like he'll come back and sleep the whole night through, which is very funny, very cute.
He loves his daycare. He gets depressed when he doesn't go. And he's built a relationship with a lot of the people who work there, and a lot of the dogs are daily regulars. So he knows all the dogs, all the people who work there. And it's great because when I tour and I play shows and I leave, I can leave him there, and they do boarding, but it's like open boarding. So they don't put him in a cage. Someone sleeps in the room with all the dogs. So he has really bad separation anxiety. So it's really good that we have that relationship with his daycare.
Okay. It's funny. I hear that more and more. I mean, my dog suffers from separation anxiety, but I get that from so many people that I talk to for the show and just outside the show. I wonder if that's a pandemic thing or what.
We did adopt him right before the pandemic started. And I think it did mess him up that both mom and dad were with him 24 hours a day. And then suddenly, things opened back up and we're doing things again. And I mean, I have a camera inside the house, and if we leave him alone, he screams. He just goes, oh, oh, the whole time. So it's like my whole entire life revolves around, is it dog friendly? Hey, you guys want to go out to dinner with us? Do they have a patio? Is it pet friendly? Can I bring Yoshi? It's like, or if I can't bring him, I have to take him to daycare or get him a babysitter. It's like a kid, and we did not. I'll tell you the other thing about when we adopted him too. My husband and I were living in a 240 square foot RV.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next.
and we went to the rescue or to the animal control, and we said, hey, we're looking for a small dog, and we thought for the camper, all this stuff, and then they said, well, we don't have any small dogs. Do you want to see who we have and meet them? And the very first dog and the very first kennel was Yoshi, and me and him locked eyes, and then we went down the row, and it was a Rottweiler, it was a couple other big a pair of brothers, and I was like, I really want to meet that first dog because we just had this thing, how it is, they choose you. And so we went outside in the little meeting area, and we're sitting on a bench, and Yoshi runs out. And he runs up to my husband, and he just puts both his arms around him and gives him like the big Great Dane hug.
Right.
And we were like, oh, we're done. We're done. Like he ran out, and he was like, you guys came to save me. And we're like, I guess we did, we did. And we swear. So they said, you can pick him up in the morning, right? He has to have his shots and he has to be neutered. We're like, okay. So we come back the next morning, and he's outside, and we swear he got like 2 times bigger overnight. We don't know what happened. We were like, did we really agree to adopt a dog this big? Like, what did we do?
How long did you guys stay in the RV?
We were in the RV for about 4 years, and then we just moved into a house. And that's the other thing that is interesting. He's become more clingy because he's used to basically being in the same room with us all the time. So
Right.
now that there's different rooms, if one of us walks into another room, he follows, and he's, if you're taking a bath, he's sitting on the bathroom floor. If you're, so it's a little bit of an adjustment for him because he used to just sit on the bed in the camper, and he could see everything that was going on in the whole house, Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you grow up with dogs?
I did. I actually, when I was younger, I was more of a cat person, and I didn't really understand dogs. I had a cat I was really close with, and then we had a family dog. And then when I was 19, I adopted a 9-month-old mountain cur named Elliot. And this is actually his paw print dipped in paint over my heart. And me and him were really, really close. And I would say honestly that like I had him from when I was 19 until I was 27.
Right.
So he was kind of with me through my young adult phase and my 20s and all that. And we were really, really close. And when he passed, I was really reluctant to get another dog. And we waited 2 years. And then my husband was the one who was like, he's a huge animal lover too. And he said, we got to have a dog around. We need one. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready, but I could tell how badly he wanted one. And I was like, let's go look. So that's when we popped into animal control and we're like, let's just take a look,
Yeah, that never works.
What's funny is just how, for like the first 2 months of Yoshi, I was reluctant to kind of get close. I was in a sense, you almost feel like you're cheating or something. I was like, okay, like you're just, there's no way you and I could have the same relationship that me and Elliot had. And I will say we don't at all, because Elliot was more like, I felt like he looked after me. Like he was more of a guard dog. Like he would walk ahead of me and then he would turn around and be like, are you there? Like he could tell I was a young adult. I was a mess, and he was like, cool, like I'm taking care of this woman. Whereas like Yoshi is like he's a baby. It's like having a toddler. So we have more of this mother-son thing.
Right.
Whereas like Elliot was almost like a husband. And like Yoshi is my baby. So we got really, it's just funny because it took us a while and then we got really, really, really close.
Well, he looks like, I guess it's not Captain Snuggles, it's Captain Snurgles. Is that correct?
All right. So I wrote down a list of nicknames that we call him if you would like to hear some.
Of course.
Okay, we have Yoshi Bear, Boo Bear, Booby, Yo-Yo, Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear is what we call him when we're mad at him or if he's in trouble. So it's like, Mr. Bear, get over here right now. I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want him to think he's in trouble right now. We have Boobers, Booberino, Little Man, Little Bear, Yoshi, Yoshisaurus. Let's see. And I think that's all of them, I think. Yeah. Little Bear, okay. Mr. Bear, Booby, Booberino, Baby Boy, Boo Bear. Yeah, I got them all.
And he responds to them all. He knows that's me.
Yeah, he loves Little Man and Little Bear are his two favorites. He's mommy's little man.
I love it. I love the irony. Well, let's talk if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about Elliot, because I know, when I went through your social feed and, some of the things you posted, and I know he's got a very, traumatic ending to his story. But when I first put this podcast together, I happened to find 2 or 3 artists that had posted similar to what you and saying that you saved my life. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. Can you explain a little bit about like how that came to be or how that relationship became so strong?
Well, yeah, I think that with Elliot, it was definitely, he was my first dog and I was living alone as a 19-year-old. And I definitely have a lot of, I have mental health issues. I have learning disabilities. I have struggles, as a human. One of the reasons why I'm in the arts is because, it's one of the things that I can do and do well. But, it's definitely, I feel like a lot of people that are a little bit crazier, end up in this field of work. But I think for me, I was really depressed at that time too, when I adopted him, and just having someone else who loves you and depends on you. And just, first of all, the love that a dog gives right off the bat is amazing. They're so pure and they're just, their intentions are, dogs don't manipulate you necessarily, dogs are just, they're just pure love.
Right.
There's nothing to decipher with a dog, and with him, just, he wanted to, I would want to lay around in bed and he would get me up and get me outside and get me walking in the sunlight. And we would be enjoying things together. And we just, we had me and him just, we traveled the country together. He toured with me. He was just, we were really, we experienced a lot together.
Right.
Aside from my husband now, Elliot was the closest relationship I had ever had with another living being.
Hmm. What, so at 19, when did your career took off at a very young age? Was it around that time or was it a year or two earlier?
When I made my first album with Dan Arbach when I was 16.
Okay, I
And
didn't realize it was that young. Okay.
yeah, and so, yeah, but I would definitely say I had a lot going on 18, 19, 20, 21 for sure. It was still kind of a whirlwind of things happening.
Hmm. And did you seek out getting a dog to kind of be that assistant or ground you in that way? Like, what was the impetus for getting a dog at that point?
I actually got a dog because I was living alone. And I more or less wanted someone, it is funny, I wanted someone who would like bark and scare away intruders. And I didn't really, the family dog that we had when we were a kid, my parents weren't very dog savvy back then. And they, we didn't give him enough credit. I don't think, I didn't really know what dogs could do. And then when
Hmm.
I adopted Elliot and I realized how smart he was, it was just it was kind of crazy the things he could learn. And I've never trained a dog. I just talk to them like they're a person.
Hmm.
And eventually they learn what words I'm saying. They learn my tone. They learn, they behave and they listen to me because like we trust each other. I've never been like, here's treats or people who, I couldn't imagine people who spank their dogs, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've never trained a dog before. I just hang out with them like they're my buddy. And
Well, it's interesting you say that because earlier when you said, to get Yoshi to behave at the daycare, you did train him. So you spoke to him.
yeah, you
You're
tell
like,
me
we
how,
have to have a talk.
yeah, we're talking about you, buddy. Yeah, you just say, and we say no humping before we go into daycare. We just have we have a little talk, and I look him in the eyes, and I say, listen, you gotta, it's funny because I would tell him this and he got it, but I would say, look, you're never going to be pup of the month if you don't stop pumping. And then he got pup of the month.
Smart dog, very smart dog. I also noticed your husband, in the passing of Elliot, in his post, he said, thank you for watching over you. I'll do
Yeah.
my best. Very sweet to say that. And also to give so much onus on Elliot for being such a good watchdog of you.
He was an incredible man. He really was. He was a human man in a dog body who was sent from the heavens to look after me
Hmm.
and keep me in a place where I was, keep me in a place out of myself too. Because again, I think taking care of him was a huge help in just, remembering that there was more than myself. To have something other than myself was really important.
Right. Which is tough at that age. Everyone's going through that, that period where it's me, and it really helps that something else comes along to give you some responsibility or force you
He
into
kept,
responsibility.
yeah, he kept me grounded
Yeah.
in a time otherwise where I definitely wasn't.
Hmm. You mentioned touring, and we've had this on the podcast before, and it's mostly positive. Was he ever a burden on the road?
No, no, Elliot was not. I mean, he had friends all over the country, and he loved everyone. He was very chill. He was very trustworthy. Unlike Yoshi, who is not as trustworthy as Elliot. I could take a sandwich and set it on the coffee table, and I could look at Elliot and I could go, "I'll be right back." And I could leave the room and come back and that sandwich would be there. Yoshi would pull the sandwich out of my mouth and hand. I'd be like this and he'd be like right here. And I'd be like, this isn't for you. So Elliot was very easy to travel with for sure. But Yoshi, you can't travel with him at all.
Well, I was going to say the size too. Was back in the day, were you guys in like Sprinter vans or were you in buses or?
Vans
Okay.
typically. Yeah. Yeah, I've done some bus tours, but not none with a dog. But vans, yeah, for the most part. I did one tour, and my ex-husband has this dog now. But we had a Great Dane Catahoula mix and Elliot, and we did one tour where we brought both dogs, and the Catahoula mix had to go in a giant crate, and we would put the crate in the hotel and put both dogs in the room and get them situated and go to the show. sound check, come back, check on the dogs, walk them, play the show. So that was one of the crazier ones because like we had to have like, a crate that's like I can't even fit in the frame of the camera how big
Right.
this crate we would have to set up was. But I've always liked having animals around. If I could take Yoshi with me to shows, I would, but he would absolutely hate it.
Yeah. Now, were you referring to Fudge? Was that your
Yeah.
ex's dog?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I found him somewhere in your
Yeah.
Instagram.
Fudge was a character and a half, but yeah, that was he ended up staying in the divorce. He stayed, and obviously Elliot came with me.
Okay. Now, not to get into that too far, but I've always been curious when there is a breakup and there is a dog involved, was it pretty obvious who was going to go with who at the time, or was it,
Well, I think because I had Elliot for so
Elliot
long.
was yours.
Elliot was
Elliot
mine.
was yours before the relationship.
Exactly. And then
Fudge was his before.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Fudge was rather new as well, and was kind of the both of ours, but more his for sure. So it was obvious. Yeah.
Okay. Now, not to turn everything dark, but what did eventually happen? What was the story behind Elliot and, being, I guess, poisoned?
Yeah,
The police had told you he was poisoned.
Yeah, by one of my ex. So after I split with my ex-husband, I dated someone in between him and my current partner now. And then when we split up, he got really jealous and really upset. He was really upset because about 2 months after we split up, I met Mick, who is like my soulmate,
Mhm.
and it's very obvious that we're very compatible. And he had expressed to me, the ex, that he was upset that I had moved on so quickly and all this kind of stuff, and that I was heartless and all these sorts of things. And I have, emails and statements from other people and all this stuff, that when you put it all together, all signs point to, he had actually told someone over nachos that he was planning something like this, and he was drunk, and they called me but the thing is like, there's not really much legal course I could have taken, because basically the police were like, unless you have a video of it happening, like, I
Yeah.
believe you. And this is obvious, and this kind of stuff happens all the time. And even if you do have proof, an animal, if someone kills your dog in Tennessee, it counts as theft under $1,000.
Jeez, that's sad.
So it's like, because they view a dog as like an item.
Hmm.
So really, there's not much recourse, because they don't do anything really for theft under 1,000. It's the same as if someone walked into your garage and stole your lawnmower.
Yeah.
Which is just because it's like, and for like your best friend, and like someone that you love. So it's tragic. And on that note, I 100%, I'm a spiritual person, and I 100% believe, and so does my husband, that Yoshi was sent to us to heal us,
Hmm.
because he's so loving, and he just gives these incredible hugs, and he'll come up to you and just press into you. And we had a lot of trauma from that experience. And Yoshi really, like, we believe that the only reason he was sent to us was to heal us, and so we could have a positive dog experience, and we needed him. We really did.
Yeah, I hear that time and time again. Actually, the episode that's up right now, a similar story, not as diabolical, I'll say, but a loss of a dog where the dog felt irreplaceable, but the dog that did present itself really made a world of difference. So it's always nice to hear. I mean, they're just such resilient and loving creatures. How can you refuse their what they offer?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's really been. He's the sweetest. He's so goofy too. He's the silliest dog I've ever. He's clumsy. He's really, he'll see a bird and like accidentally smack his face into the wall. Like he's and that's the other thing too. Like with Elliot, was an athlete. He was agile. He was, ripped, and Yoshi is this chubby, clumsy.
I think I get a really good sense of him through photographs. I think when I first came across your Instagram and first saw him, I was like, "Oh my God, I love this! I love this dog already." And then, 1,000 pictures later, I feel like I get a good sense of who he is and his demeanor and his, like you're saying, his inbred humor, I guess.
Oh, he's a big doofus.
This podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime, showing up at your door every 5 minutes. Sorry. Oh, somebody's coming in. So anyways, I think, let me look at the time. We could probably wind things down. I wind things up with what I call the zoomies, which are 5 quick, frivolous questions for the most part.
Okay.
And the first one is, and I think I might have seen, I have photographic evidence of your husband, Mick, but I'll ask you, do you kiss Yoshi on the mouth?
I kiss him on the mouth, but I don't let him put his tongue in my mouth. So it's funny because he will close his mouth and I'll kiss him. But my husband, he'll they tongue kiss and I don't do that. But Yoshi knows. He knows I won't tongue kiss him, so he keeps his mouth closed. Okay,
I'm a huge advocate of kissing a dog on the mouth, but yeah, I don't tongue kiss. I don't think many do. But hats off to Mick for that devotion. Question 2 is, has Yoshi licked anyone famous? And when I say famous, I'm a layperson. You're in the music business, so fellow musicians, anyone you come across.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, he's met some people. Honestly, we're not big proponents on really having people over, and he doesn't really go out. So I don't think he's really, he's licked every person he's ever met. He's kind of the famous one because I always say, like, when we go out with him, it's like you're going out with Mariah Carey or something, because he just like people just flock to him in like crowds to pet him and meet. He's so big and goofy looking.
I love it. What about Elliot? Since he was on tour with you, who were you touring with at the time?
Oh God, he's met everybody. Obviously he's met the Avett Brothers. Who else? He met Dan Arbach. He went to his house to the studio one time. Pretty much anyone that I've worked with early on in my career, he probably met at some point.
Okay. Love to hear that. Question 3, if you could assign a theme song to Yoshi, what would it be?
Ooh, I have a little one that I sing to him, and I boop his nose and I say, "Who put the bump in the bump, shabump, shabump? Who put the boop in the boopy doopy doop doop?" And I boop him. He loves it.
I love it. I love it. I might have to add that to my repertoire. Question 4, I think I know the answer to this. Do you have a dog voice?
Okay, so I don't speak to him in the dog voice, but I translate. So like when he's talking, he'll be like, "Well, geez, Mom, I don't want," like he's got, like, it's hard. It's so hard to do, but it's hard to do unless he's like, I swear to God, it's easier for me to do when he's saying something, like when he's thinking something. I'll say out loud what he's thinking, and then he'll look at me like, yeah, like tell him, like, so I'll translate for my husband all the time in his like little, like, it's kind of, see if I can do it without it, but like I really like the fresh pet, or really like, he's got like kind of like a little bit like, it's probably just like, yeah, I make him sound really, really dumb, but he is a big doofus. So I do a big doofus voice for him.
Okay, great. And finally, question 5, is there a dog organization that you'd like to just give a shout out to or give some props to?
Yeah, so I really love One Dane at a Time, and I follow them on Instagram, and they basically they rescue Danes and Great Dane mixes. And right now, I know that she's been posting that she's got a lot of like dogs who need like surgery and operations, and I think she's like $62,000 in debt right now. So anybody that can donate to that, because she gets these Great Danes that people have just mistreated. And I will say, the thing about the big dogs is that people adopt them when they're these little puppies, and then they get really big and they abandon them. So there's just this influx of huge dogs that have, trust issues and abuse and all kinds of stuff. So I love what she does over there.
Okay, great. I'll get a little bit more information and post it on my outro. Anything you want to promote coming up in the spring?
I don't right now. I'm kind of I'm in the middle of working on things that are a little too early to promote, but
okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the offer.
Okay, anytime. We'll just keep on top. Where's the best way to keep on top of you? You have a website or your socials?
I'm honest. I'm the best at posting on Instagram. I feel like that's the one that I keep up with. I have all the other ones, but I don't really ever use them. So like the most up-to-date stuff is probably on Instagram.
Okay, great. That's kind of how we operate. One thing, can I ask you one more question? I don't know if I can fit this in, but I always love asking about the tattoos. And of course, I know this tattoo next to your heart kind of speaks for itself, but you also have another tattoo on don't you have one on your shoulder?
And I also have Elliot's name on my wrist, which is backwards camera. And then I have this one too. This little dog.
Now, was there a reason for that? I mean, were you just a dog lover, or were you like, I'm going to get this for you at the time, or like...
Just a random kind of, I love dogs. The tattoo artist who did it, it was cute because he spoke broken English and he goes, that's Mr. Pee-Pee. So he named him Mr. Pee-Pee. I don't know why, but that was just kind of like a random, like in Brooklyn, New York, in like someone's bedroom. Like she was like, "You want a tattoo?" I was like, "Yeah." So I want to get a tattoo for Yoshi eventually as well. I'm thinking about just getting, like, one option is to get him. Another option is to get, the Mario Yoshi to kind of symbolize him.
Okay.
But it was so they're the little, I think Yoshi's a dinosaur in Mario, but what's crazy is my husband and I were playing a ton of Mario Kart when we adopted him, and we didn't know his name, the name that he had already had. And we agreed to adopt him. We came back and they said, "Oh, you're here to pick up Yoshi." And we were like, "Okay, that's a sign. Like we're gonna keep that name because we've been playing Mario Kart every day, and then we get a dog with a Mario themed name. Like, what are the odds?"
That's funny. I'm curious too, the creative process behind the tattoo, because I know many of the guests I've had have a certain tattoo, but as an artist yourself, a musical artist, there's always like, well, is it going to be, what's the style going to be? Is it going to be, just calligraphy? Is it going to be this cartoony or realism? So it's always interesting to go through that creative process to, how you ended up with the tattoo.
My tattoo theory for my whole body, I really want the tattoos to look like they could have been temporary tattoos that were like stuck on with, like I want all of my tattoos to look, like cartoony, and like I have like a Hello Kitty here. So basically my whole thing is like, it has to be colorful and fun, which the tattoo artist who did this one, she, Shannon Wages out of Nashville, and she was actually friends with my dog Elliot as well. Like I said, he had so many friends. He was so social and amazing, but I really like what she did with it because she didn't just want to do like a black paw. So she added, like a burst of colors coming out of it, like pinks and blues. So it really lightened it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time and telling me all about Yoshi and also Elliot too. I'm sorry, about Elliot, but
I was blessed to have him in my life. I really was. So
yeah, he sounds like a special dog, and I'm glad we got to give him some time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and Yoshi on today.
That's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Right, bye-bye. All right. A big thank you to Jessica Lea Mayfield for coming on the show and sharing her dog's past and present with us. The dog organization she chose to put a spotlight on is One Dane at a Time, whose goal is to not only take in Danes in need and place them in forever homes, but to also educate the public on the specific needs of this amazing breed and to raise awareness about spaying, neutering, and responsible ownership. To adopt, foster, or donate, go to onedaneatatime.org. Thanks as always for listening. We welcome your feedback and comments, so drop us a line on our Instagram page at Rocker Dog Podcast. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode featuring two members of an Ohio-based country band whose latest album is currently sitting in the top 10 on the Americana album chart. So please join us to learn about their pups. Until then, tell your dogs I said hi. So long, everybody.